Moin! Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Gouda. Why are Germans so good at engineering? This is on the Joe Rogan Experience, where he had on as a guest Andrew Schulz. Andrew Schulz is an American comedian. Joe Rogan, of course, American comedian, but better known for his podcast. Kind of the godfather of podcasting. His podcast, if I had to guess, I would guess it's the biggest one in the world. I don't really listen to it. Occasionally I'll see clips from it. Occasionally I'll check out an episode here and there if there's a guest that I want to see or want to hear, I should say. I find his podcast to be fine. Like, he's faced so much criticism. People trying to get him banned off Spotify, and we're going to take all of our music off of Spotify if you don't get rid of Joe Rogan, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, where is your belief in like freedom of speech, freedom of expression? And a lot of this was during the dark times, 2020 to 2021, 2022, when they were talking about the thing that we shall not talk about, the dark times. Yeah, you know, you cannot like what somebody says. You cannot like their program. You cannot like what they talk about, etc., etc. You can turn it off. If you don't like it, switch the channel. If you don't like it, turn it off. There's no reason that you need to allow it to take up any time in your day. Why would you allow it to take up any time in your day? If you think that they're dangerous or that they're spreading rhetoric that's going to harm people, sure, write articles and do things, but don't try to get them deplatformed. That's just annoying. And I feel there is a strong penchant for that, for authoritarianism and trying to silence people that they don't want talking. But when I listen to his show, of course, he's misinformed on a lot of things. He doesn't profess to be an arbiter of truth or like this super well-rounded scientific and intellectual mind. He professes to be somebody who's curious and willing to talk to anybody on the political spectrum, anybody with differing opinions, and that's cool. So all that said, he's talking about, they're going to talk about German engineering. And you have to take in mind that this is a comedy podcast, right? Like, these are comedians that are just bullshitting, essentially, right? They talk about topics. It's more so for comedic purposes. They're not trying to, have an intellectual conversation. Usually, anyways. Joe Rogan, Andrew Schulz, let's go.
I don't know. I think
him too.
I think
Great
you can
guy.
I don't know. I think you can look at culture and the way that it has evolved through the circumstances they had to deal with. It's
Right.
like you look at like Canadians, right? And a lot of people are like, oh, Canadians are so nice. And it's like, think about how difficult life was in Canada before big cities. I'm talking about go to Calgary. I'm talking about go to Edmonton. Like, yeah, your neighbor's going to be nice to you when your life is dependent on it.
Yeah, it's negative 90
Negative
outside.
fucking 90 degrees. We all have a cattle farm or horses, and the hay isn't there, and we need to feed them. I need to.
It's not negative 90 degrees, but I appreciate they're talking about some Canadians and the stereotype that we're so nice.
Be able to go to you and be like, hey, do you have some hay? Because
Yeah.
all my cattle are going to fucking die. That's going to create some kindness. You live in New York where, like,
I don't think that's the reason for the stereotype that Canadians are kind, but
the elements aren't going to affect it that much. And, like, you can kind of check out for most things. And as long as the water's pretty good and the food, yeah, we can be rude to one another because we can afford to be. We don't rely on each other as much.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's like culture is like dependent on like how much you need to rely on one another and like what the elements provide you.
Yeah. That's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, look how
It's like you think
welcoming-
like how disciplined and how good the engineering of the Germans were. But like you had to be on top of your fucking game if you're living in that freezing mountain weather, right?
Yeah, why were they good?
It's a good question. They were so good. They were so good at engineering.
Was there like a focus on intelligence? Was there a focus on like studying? Was there a focus on
I wish I knew the
education?
answer to that. But there had to be something because think Audi, Mercedes, BMW,
Volkswagen.
Porsche.
They were
Yeah.
teaching that stuff there
Industrial
before the United
Revolution played
States
a
was a
critical
country.
role.
Oh, the Industrial Revolution played a critical role in catapulting Germany into engineering stardom. The Dresden Academy of Engineers was founded in 1743, where subjects such as mathematics, fortress construction,
Hilarious. But you also look at like
Mechanics and the study of machinery.
where all of like the great classical what is it called
Music.
all the great classical
Juilliard?
Yeah, a lot of classical composers. I don't know if that's where his thoughts are going, are of course German.
no the
Composers?
classical composers.
Okay.
I think most of them are from Germany as well. Like Germany must have experienced like a level of opulence for an extended period of time where like they could just go, I'm going to be an orchestra conductor. Like that's shit got to be good for a
Right.
while.
A long time.
Where your job is blowing into a fucking horn, right? Like think about like in human history, how long has it been where you could blow into a horn for a living?
Yeah.
So maybe they just had that for hundreds of years, and because of that, they could develop all this crazy shit. While everybody's basically trying to stay alive, trying to get to another season, like hoping it rains.
Could be.
Because
Well, there certainly has to be some sort of an effect.
Dual education system back long time ago where they would split up theoretical and practical knowledge.
Wow. The study program combines the technical knowledge with the commercial expertise and is building networks between the subjects, which can be essential for the later job world.
this is what Germany had. France had the thinkers, but they're like, we're not going to do shit.
Philosophers.
Exactly.
Smoke
let's,
cigarettes.
let's
Get my
think,
dick sucked.
Exactly.
Yes.
I'm gonna get my dick sucked.
Yeah.
Guy, girl, don't matter.
Yeah.
Right, but, like,
what are you saying?
it-
Freedom
it-
fries.
But Germany was like, nah, we need some science too.
Yeah.
So France is
It's
just
cold out here. We
Heat
need
it up.
better engines.
and
Bro.
France was just like, how many different espressos can we make?
Imagine if those motherfuckers came up with a bomb first.
The French?
No, the Germans. They're probably pretty close.
Where did Einstein come from?
Germany. Albert Einstein. Well, Oppenheimer too, right? Where's he from?
Operation Paperclip.
Yeah, Oppenheimer's not from
No,
Operation
but
Paperclip.
like-
Oh yeah.
Oppenheimer is
Operation Paperclip,
American.
Wasn't that mostly NASA scientists though?
I think you're thinking about Werner von Braun, maybe in the rockets.
But weren't they all
Yeah, I
from?
guess.
Well,
Weren't they
it's
all
all
after the war,
rocketry,
but-
you know, and
Yeah.
rockets were used to deliver
Rocketry. It's all rocketry.
for bombs too.
Yeah.
Like the rocketry program in Berlin was insane. Like Werner von Braun was an absolute legitimate Nazi who was in charge of a rocket factory in Berlin where they would hang the slowest Jews in front of the rocket factory. So when people would walk through, they would realize like this is the penalty if you work slow. That's Werner von Braun.
And then we
That's the
hired him.
guy we fucking brought him over from the Nazis to run our NASA program to get us to the moon.
Is that like the version? Is that like Michael Jack?
I watched Indiana Jones 5 the other night. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it, but the plot is basically, it has like a time travel element. And the red herring throughout it is that the bad guy German, he wants to go back to World War II to, affect the war and kill like Winston Churchill or kill whoever. Actually, it's not even a red herring, but the bad guys essentially want to go back and kill Hitler before he makes a mistake of like invading Poland and all the mistakes that he made leading up to Germany's defeat in World War II. It's kind of it wasn't really the best film, but it was okay. But the main bad guy in the story is supposed to be working on the NASA program and getting them on the moon, getting the Americans on the moon with Neil Armstrong in 1969.
Jackson?
What do you mean?
Where like the work is so good, you just like forget about the
Right,
fuck
it's-
shit.
right.
like,
Wanna see him sama makusa, never see him sama makusa. 1943, United States launched the ALOS mission, a foreign intelligence product focused on learning the extent of Germany's nuclear program. By 1944, however, the evidence was clear the Germans had not come close to developing a bomb and had only advanced to preliminary research.
wow.
How far away do you think it came from us going from preliminary research to the Manhattan Project? Like, how long was that?
Los Alamos. I did think Oppenheimer, the film by Christopher Nolan, was pretty good.
Thank God they didn't do it, though.
What
Jesus
is
Christ.
that
Just
shit
imagine.
right there, bro?
Oh, isn't that dope? That's a Japanese artist made it for me. Isn't that sick?
Bro, the Japanese are on some shit, bro.
Definitely.
We need to look into.
You know, that's the only people that the Mongols didn't take over.
And why?
Because the samurais fucked them up. The Mongols showed up and they tried to take over Japan on several occasions, more than one occasion. And every time they were met with these fucking dudes who actually knew how to fight and were
This gets sidetracked so easily,
were
right?
shooting
So it's just
arrows
two
at
guys.
distances, and they're like, "Whoa, what the fuck is going on here?" Like they were
Essentially, like what makes Joe Rogan work, I think, is like these are conversations that used to happen and not be recorded. But the kind of beauty of his podcast is now you can record them, and they're comedians. They're just shooting the shit. Like that's what, like, right? They're just talking BS, shooting the shit. They're just talking, and that's what makes the program like with no preconceived notions, right?
were like if you think about samurais,
What the fuck?
They really didn't get too into why why Germans have produced such excellence in engineering, though, did they?
As a samurai, like
Japan was the origins of karate, judo.
Now we're talking about Japan.
Jiu-jitsu. All that shit came out of Japan.
but we're talking
All
about
of it.
feudal Japan, like we're talking
Yeah.
about kingdoms and
Those
such.
cyclones saved them.
Japanese have always attributed their victory to storms and that wrecked.
Okay, so yeah, they didn't really take too deep of dive into Germany's historical origin in engineering, but they talked about like classical composers, didn't really name any, and they talked about car companies essentially, and then a little bit of Operation Paperclip and World War II. That's fine. All right, it's not exactly what I was expecting, but 'tis what it is. All right, tschüss. Auf Wiedersehen.